Good morning, Integrated Math 1. I hope you all are doing well. As mentioned last week, today we are going to be looking at the Pythagorean Theorem, which I think multiple of you have seen in 8th grade, but we're going to review it again today, and this is section 4.7 of our curriculum. So let's jump into it. So a couple of things I want to talk about with you guys is what is the Pythagorean Theorem. So it is a special equation that relates to right triangles. And a right triangle is a triangle with a right angle. And I think I've mentioned this in class before, but just to go over it, right? The right angle is a 90-degree angle, and it's going to be pretty much the bottom left of our diagram in this case, right? And because of the 90-degree angle, we call it a right angle, and it becomes a right triangle. Now, the other two angles that we don't have, right? These are unknown to us. We don't know what those are because they could be different. But what's really important is that that bottom left angle is 90 degrees, and we can mark it by using that box shape. So we have some parts of a right triangle. So A and B are the shortest sides. So notice that A is the left side, B is the bottom side, and they're going to be the shortest sides. So it doesn't mean that they're necessarily equal. They could be different. So like we could say that side A is 3 inches. We could say that side B is 4 inches. And then side C is the longest side of the hypotenuse. So in this example, if we're using numbers, we could say that side C maybe is 5 inches. And that's going to work every single time. There's not going to be a right triangle where C is not the longest side. And then fun little fact, C is the hypotenuse. So again, longest side of the right triangle. And the numbers I picked, right? 3, 4, and 5. We're not really going to go in depth about this, but I wanted you to at least hear it. 3, 4, and 5 is what's called a Pythagorean triple. So it's one of those groupings of numbers where they're whole numbers, and it works out perfectly, right? If I were to take the Pythagorean Theorem equation, put in 3 and 4 for the sides, I would get 5 as an answer. A lot of the time, we will actually get decimals, and they won't be perfect, but that's okay for now. So what is the actual Pythagorean theorem? So the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the really important thing is that we are raising each number to the power of 2. So if we go back to that 3-inch, 4-inch, and 5-inch triangle from before, right? I could plug those in. I could do 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to 5 squared. And when we're squaring our numbers, that means we're multiplying the number by itself twice. So 3 squared gives us 9, 4 squared gives us 16, and 5 squared gives us 25. And if you notice, if we add 9 and 16, we get the number 25. So what ends up happening is that this is true, right? That means that these two sides add up to the other side. That's where it comes from, okay? And if you notice, I do have a hyperlink for a YouTube video. That is a video that I'm going to have you guys watch after you're finished watching this one, so it is in your slideshow. You're just going to have to go to the next slide and watch the link. And it's a little video on the Pythagorean Theorem. And then on that same slide, I just want your feedback. Did you like it or did you not like the video? Okay, so let's do some practice. So what's really key about this first problem is that we want to find the hypotenuse. So remember, the hypotenuse is the longest side. Also, fun fact, hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle. So With this being said, we have our equation, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to plug in 90 for a and 90 for b. So we have 90 squared plus 90 squared is equal to c squared. And what we have to do is we have to solve for c squared. So 90 times 90 gives us 8,100. We're going to add that to 8,100 to get c squared. When we add these two together, we get 16,200 is equal to c squared. And so it looks like we're done because we're left with c, but what's really important is this 2. We have to remove that. And so here's the thing. When we're squaring a number, the opposite would be taking the square root. So think of it this way. If you're solving an equation and we're adding, the inverse would be subtracting. This is the same thing. If we're squaring a number, the inverse would be taking the square root. And so if we take the square root of this, okay, what we're going to do, hold on, I need my calculator, is I'm going to type it in and do square root. And so what happens is I get the number 127 and it gives me 279. What I'm going to do is round that to 0.3, and I'm going to say that's my c. So this is 127.3 feet all together. Okay. If you're a little confused on how to take the square root, either using a calculator, your phone, or even using a computer, you guys can reach out and I can show you how to do it. Or you can even look up on Google how to do it. Google has some really good resources. Okay. Let's do another one. So this one again, finding the hypotenuse. So notice in this one, slightly different diagram. Find your right angle. Straight across is your hypotenuse. So this is what we're solving for. So does it matter which number I make a and b? The answer to that is no. So I can make 7a and 12b. It doesn't really matter. So what our equation is going to be is 7 squared plus 12 squared is equal to c squared. 7 squared gives us 49. 12 squared gives us 144. And then we're left with c squared. If we add these together, we're going to get 193 is equal to c squared. And then we have to do that handy dandy trick about taking the square root. And notice I'm doing it to both sides. It's really important that we get rid of the 2 on the c, so we're squaring both sides. And what we should get is approximately 13.9. I'm rounding up. It was actually 13.89, so I'm rounding up to 13.9. So this is 13.9 and then meters. So that's finding the hypotenuse. Now we also have to look at finding the missing side length. So very, very similar. We have to label A, B, and C. Notice in the diagram we have our A. So now we have to figure out what B and C are. So if you notice, 90-degree angle, straight across. This is our C. So that means that 8 is our B. So using the equation, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. We don't have a, so a is going to stay the same. Our b value, we're going to say is 8 squared. And then our c value is 10 squared. So we're going to still do the same process. We're going to square all of our numbers. A squared stays. 8 squared gives us 64, and 10 squared gives us 100. Now, if you notice, this actually looks more like an equation, right? The left side has a variable and a number, the right side has a number. So to get a by itself, to solve for it, we're going to have to subtract 64. Okay? A squared comes down, and when we do 100 minus 64, we get 36. And look at, we still have our 2 here, so to get rid of that, we are going to take the square root of both sides, and we get left with A is equal to 6. So down here, A is 6 meters. So slightly different process, but we can still find the side length. Let's do one more. So looking here, slightly different diagram again. We have our A value, we know that. We have our right angle, and right across from it is our hypotenuse, so this is C. So that means 1 centimeter is our B. So again, A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. A, we don't know what it is. B, we know is 1 squared. And then C is 9 squared. So again, we're going to square all of our numbers. Oops. 1 squared is 1, and 9 squared is 81. To solve for A, we have to subtract 1 on both sides. 1 cancels, and we are left with A squared is equal to 80. And again, we have our little 2 that we have to get rid of. So we are going to take the square root of both sides. And so we are going to get that A is equal to, I'm rounding it again, 8.9. So notice, even though it's really close to 9, it's still smaller than 9. So A is still a smaller side than C. So this is 8.9 centimeters. That is the end of our notes for today. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. We can schedule a conference call. We can go over notes. Make sure that you finish everything in your slides, and your homework will be posted. Please keep in mind your slides are due on Wednesday, and then Khan Academy and your worksheet are due on Friday. Have a great day, guys.